How do you stay motivated to keep on pursuing a creative endeavor for a lifetime? Motivation is quite complex, especially when it comes to creative endeavors. I often look at people I admire and wonder why they stopped making or sharing art when they were so motivated before. Then I look at people who just keep going no matter what. My own art journey has spanned around 10 to 15 years at this point, so I've experienced both ends of the spectrum. I had thought that motivation had to be this singular, untouchable spark that drives you to keep creating your whole life. But after outlining this video, I realized it needs to be adaptive. We can't keep relying on the same motivations to keep us going from childhood all the way to adulthood. Maybe you often wonder, why am I demotivated, burnt out, uninterested in art, unable to pick up the pencil? While the reason is probably that you can't expect motivation to feel a certain way, because as we grow older and experience different things, we become different versions of ourselves, and all of these versions need something different to keep going. So this video, I'm essentially examining the main motivations I had from childhood up until now, the pros and cons of each one, and how my perspective on them has changed. So if you're interested, tune in after a word from our sponsor. In honor of lifetime learning and curiosity, this video is brought to you in partnership with Skillshare. Lately, I've started to become curious about hand lettering and calligraphy because I think it's a great supplementary skill for any illustrator or designer. Luckily, Skillshare has many classes on this topic, including the one that I checked out called Hand Lettering in Procreate: Fundamentals to Finishing Touches, because I always think it's most important to start with fundamentals after all. To those unaware, Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives with thousands of classes in various categories, including photography, graphic design, music, cooking, business, marketing, and more. It is designed by creatives for creatives. Many classes are taught by industry experts, and lots of artists that I know of are already teaching on this platform, so that was super cool to see. A great feature that they have is a learn by doing approach, where members can create and share a project after completing a class. This is an on-demand platform with stackable lessons, so members can learn at their own pace, no matter your skill level. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So get started today. Thank you for supporting this channel. We love any brand who supports the art community and education. Welcome back. So this will be a podcasty video, so feel free to get some chores done or draw along while I yap. And since this is mostly going to be about my experience, I would love to hear your response because I'm very aware that some of you will have a very similar lived experience and some of you will not be able to relate at all. So I think that would be interesting. Here we go. My earliest motivation was definitely fun, and makes sense, right? It would be very weird if a child was motivated by something other than having fun. But yeah, during this time I was obsessed with animals. I liked Pokemon and, Tokyo Mew Mew. I liked making animal mashups and experimenting with all sorts of different artistic mediums. It was very carefree, right? No one was telling me like, you're not doing well, you're doing this wrong. And of course, an element of fun persists through my entire life, but there are definitely periods where this completely disappeared, where art, it really wasn't fun, and fun was not the main reason I was doing it. Now, I definitely found different aspects of the various other motivations I'll talk about today fun, but none of them are this like childhood wonder, pure form of fun that we reminisce as adults, like losing track of time, feeling like anything is possible, just not afraid of making mistakes. This type of fun is very rare nowadays. The cons of this specific motivation is that it's unreliable and fickle. And essentially, I feel that if you will only do something because it's fun and you haven't built any other reasons to do it, when that fun inevitably changes or goes away, you will not have built any reason to keep doing it. And I know that there must be some people who are like, what's the point of doing art if it's not fun? I will not do it if it's not fun. And I completely understand. However, you probably don't have to do this as a living. I do. And also, I think that it doesn't have to be fun. Things that are good for you are not necessarily fun all the time. It's up to us to find the fun in them. Running around as a child was fun, but exercising as an adult is not fun. But if you make it fun and you make it consistent, then you will have a long, healthy life. And this is how I feel about art and creativity as well. If you stop drawing or you stop creating because you feel it's not fun anymore, but you know that this is an important aspect of your life, then you need to find other reasons to keep doing it until it becomes fun again, until you can find new aspects that make it fun. So the next motivation sequentially is probably recognition or talent. This was around elementary school and middle school, where I became very concerned with getting the feedback from my teachers and my peers that I was talented. And I started reflecting on why this all happened in the first place, aside from being assigned as a gifted kid. And I think it was because in elementary school, our teachers would assign us creative assignments, right? Like draw on this rock or make a short comic. And I remember two specific instances where I'm sure that my mom was working with me to do those, but she did most of it. And obviously, it turned out a lot better than what a child could do. And I'm sure that my teacher knew that an adult did this project, but my classmates probably didn't. And they were like, wow, Lexin, that's so cool. How did you do that? Well, I didn't. My mom did. And I mean, I had to keep living up to it, So I kept getting better and I kept showing my classmates things that I'd drawn. And I was just living off of that, because no one else in my immediate surroundings were super into art. So I felt like I needed to hold down the fort as the token art kid. So the pros of this is that it gave me confidence. I loved getting confirmation from the outside world that I was doing well in a certain aspect, because as a child, you're always trying to find that one thing that you're gonna be special for, right? Whether it's sports or singing or academics or art. The cons is that this does not cultivate internal motivation. We have all at this point learned about the burnt out gifted kid, and I think that definitely happened to me, wherein because I was so obsessed with keeping up appearances of being the art kid, being the talented one, it did not really teach me that, perhaps working hard was the important thing to learn, or connecting with other people was the important part. I kind of put all of my chips into art. And it was basically I don't need to be a good person. I don't need to work hard. I just need to be insane at art. And my whole life will work out. Which is not really a great way to approach the rest of your life, especially since once I left the school system and entered the adult world, I kind of realized, I'm average, or at best a little bit above average. This amazing talent that I had cultivated in my small town doesn't really mean anything in the outside world, and that kind of destroyed my confidence a little bit. I didn't want to experience any situations where that may be challenged, so I was always playing it safe instead of doing things that would challenge me, that would suggest that I had stuff to work on. So yeah, this one is a tricky one. The next one is spite, or having something to prove. And this one really started to show itself in later high school and early college, because this is the period where, you're expected to start making decisions for the rest of your life. You're no longer treated as a child, and you're entering the adult world. People told me I was talented for my entire childhood, but at this point, when things were getting serious, they suddenly switched. We know we told you you were talented, but please don't try to do art for a living. And I'll be honest, this made me pretty mad. Coming from the same people who believed in my success until it could become something serious. And I totally understand, right? At this point in time, there were very little proof of successes in the world, right? The internet wasn't as big as it was now, but I had a vision. I knew that I could do this, but it felt like no one else believed me. This drive to prove to the world, honestly, because this was the messaging from the entire world, basically, that art is useless, that it's impossible to make a living doing this. The drive to fight against that was very, very powerful. So I think the pros of spite, or having something to prove, is that it is extremely powerful. When you feel it, you need to do something about it, right? However, the cons of spite is that it runs out. Essentially, by the end of college, I had worked so hard to prove everyone wrong that I had actually achieved that goal. I had made enough work, improved enough, gained enough of a following, established myself to a certain point to where I felt like it was difficult to say that I had not done anything. However, at this point, I felt something very foreign, and that was the fact that there was nothing left to fight against. And as someone who had been fighting against this invisible force for years and years and years, suddenly having the approval that I wanted, the acknowledgement that, yeah, actually, we believe you now, was very strange and quite confusing because then I had to figure out like a reason to do art that was not due to issues from the outside world. Oh no, right? But if you are currently in this stage where you feel like you really have something to prove, you keep getting rejected, or people do not believe in you, or all of the odds are against you, just know that I find people who have something to prove very inspiring. Sometimes it's like easy to adopt this attitude of, oh, I don't care. But because you care so much about this, it's pretty cool actually, in my opinion. But do reflect on the fact that you will one day get what you want. So after you get what you want, what's going to keep you going? A branch off of spite is numbers, because numbers is what helped me achieve the results that I wanted. And numbers in terms of like likes or comments, reposts, views, etc. This is very tricky to talk about in terms of motivation because I think it can be as motivating as it is demotivating if you don't have the numbers that you want. And I do see a lot of people chasing numbers when I feel like they need to just stop and like question, why am I doing this at all? Like, what is the point of all this? For me, larger numbers were an indication of credibility, that, I was holding my own as an artist in this online space, and that I was in touch with what people wanted to see. I know that lots of artists have very complicated relationships with like numbers, and I do believe that you will find something that works for you. Everyone has this formula if you wish to have one. But like with any formula, it is formulaic and it does get boring. I feel like using the same techniques to hit the same numbers over and over and over again. This is not personally how I want to live my life and make my art, so I usually try to focus on different things. The quality of the comments. Are people connecting with this art in the way that I want them to? Is it reaching the people that need to be seeing this? These are usually the metrics that I use, and the bigger the number, usually it means it is reaching the people it needs to reach. And if you are making art in which you don't think that this needs to reach anyone necessarily, or you're not trying to reach anyone, then don't be surprised when it doesn't necessarily get attention, because it's like you didn't make that thing to touch anyone else. Art is not naturally just like owed attention or anything. I think that most art that gets a lot of numbers was designed to do so. And so it is a pretty dangerous game, but it is motivating to a certain degree. So around the same time, I would say, is learning and curiosity. These things are lifetime motivations and they are very sustainable. Because if you're curious about the world and curious about where your own art and your own skills are going, then the world is infinite to you. Like, there's endless things to be learned and endless ways you can improve. I would say this was most potent around the college era as well. Now, the pros of learning is obviously that you're gonna learn new things. It can be very fulfilling to realize, oh, I'm actually a different person than I was yesterday because I've learned this new thing that I didn't know before. However, the cons are that, sometimes learning can be expensive. Sometimes you have to be like self-motivated to do a hard thing. Like, you have to be a little bit disciplined in order to grind out fundamentals. And this is where like the fun part starts to fade a little bit. But if you find learning fun, then guess what? You have an infinite art wheel. What I've noticed about learning like different skills is that at first it's very fun because you always see yourself improving. You're always improving at very noticeable levels. It's kind of like losing weight and getting fit. it's like the fatter you are starting, the faster you lose weight. And then the more fit you become, the harder it is to see results. And so if you don't know anything about art and you start learning fundamentals, and you're gonna get really good really fast. But when you hit a certain level, it starts to become harder to know what you need to improve and how to improve that thing. So yeah, the con of learning is that there is a plateau where it's going to be harder and harder to see results. So that could become very demotivating, especially if you're used to seeing very drastic improvements in your art. The next motivation after that is money. And it's very natural, right? Earning a living was a big aspect of having proven myself. And if I want to keep doing this for the rest of my life, the easiest way to do that is to make money with it. When I talk to my artistic peers nowadays, this is what they reference the most. You know, the ability to pay rent, pay bills, support their lives. It seems like for a vast majority of them, art has basically become a functional skill to make a living. And that is very cool and fine, but I think that obviously it shouldn't be the only thing, because otherwise you'll just completely burn out and start hating art and everything about it. For me, the first time I made a large amount of money was releasing my Class 101 class. I didn't know that that was possible. However, it did teach me that people found value in my teaching, and that the value that I was able to give people was my insights and my guidance. After that, I found that I was able to earn a lot of money from anime conventions and selling prints and running my shop. What is motivating about money to me is that it is a sign that I'm providing some sort of value to someone else. When I earn money, it is because I directly impacted someone. And this is exactly why I wanted to go into art instead of something else. Because in other professions, it's very hard to see the way that you're actually impacting the thing that you're working on. But in what I do, I can directly work with people, teach people, see your comments, sell prints directly to a customer at a convention. It means a lot to me. So essentially, if I start feeling like I'm earning money from exploiting you somehow or using tactics that don't respect the customer, but it's earning me a boatload of cash, that's not really what I'm about. I hope to use money as a way to motivate me and to guide me to see how I can continue having positive impact. The next motivation, and I would say this is my main motivation nowadays, and I feel like either consciously or unconsciously, this is most artists' motivation, is connection in all of its forms. Why do we make art in the first place? Well, sure, in the beginning it's fun for us, but for me, it's when I hand my art to someone else and they have a connection with it. Or because of this art, we form a connection. And I mean, this started all the way back in childhood when I would see other people's art and feel somehow connected to this person I had never ever met and will never meet because they had drawn a thing that spoke to me. And I find that a very awesome part of art, is that we can create and have shared experiences as humans, even if we never ever meet each other in person. I can go look at a painting in a museum from 1,000 years ago and feel something from it. And to know that there's a possibility that I can create something that has the same impact. Yeah, you're totally gonna see my Honkai Star Rail fan art 1,000 years from now on a cave for sure, but you know what I mean. I do a lot of fan art, and I think that creating for a fandom is actually awesome. I love having connection with the fandom and kind of playing around in the same space with the same characters and same stories with everyone, and kind of knowing that we all share the same experience of going through this story, and we can connect through that with art. Or making friends with people and other artists is also very fulfilling. Obviously, it's very easy for art to become a very lonesome journey. So building connection is very essential and motivating if you want to keep doing this for a long, long, long time. And also, helping people, motivating other people, teaching people, and, learning from people as well. That is also a connection. Talking to a teacher who really gets you, who says something that resonates with me for a lifetime. That connection is also really important to me. I just love it with people who need to meet each other meet each other somehow, whether that is like through art, through teaching, through a fandom, or otherwise. The next one is also quite expansive. I wrote other artists. This could have been all the way in the beginning because seeing older artists do this as a living is what motivated me in the first place to believe that I could continue doing this for the rest of my life as well. When I see people who care about something, it really inspires me to care about that thing too. When I see artists who are clearly living the life that they want to live and drawing the art that they love, it is really motivating to me because it shows me that this is what's possible. I never had a defeatist mindset where it's like, oh, this person is doing something that I can never do. I have never thought that in my life, I don't think. Instead, I look at someone and I'm like, wow, they're doing that. This shows me that I can do it too. I recently went to the Kim Jung-gi Museum, and seeing all of his work really reminded me of this. If I had never seen Kim Jung-gi's work, I would have never thought that this was possible. But since he existed and he drew so much and was so passionate about making all of this art, and he had this world in his head that he could visualize so clearly, it made me realize that this is what humans are capable of. In some weird way, I really feel like it's like driving evolution somehow. It's like historically people thought you could only run a mile under this amount of time, but one person broke it. And then right after that person broke it, everyone else started breaking it. And this is how I kind of feel about art, is that one person will like reach a precipice that nobody thought you could get to. And then once they get to that point, everyone else realizes, oh, that is possible. Of course, eventually I would like to be the person leading and not following. But in the earlier portion of life when I was still learning, I found it was pretty appropriate to like continue being inspired and learning from other artists. And even when I look at like random people on the internet or even my friends who draw so much like stupid stuff, I'm like, oh my God, it just seems like they're having so much fun drawing this. I could have as much fun as that as well. And that motivates me to start drawing. One way to flip this on its head, though, is sometimes what's motivating for me is seeing something that can be improved and thinking about how I could improve it in my own way. So a lot of times, especially when I'm watching educational content, I will be like, oh, it would have been better if this person taught it like this or included this thing. Or if I'm watching a movie, it would have been better if this story went like this. I don't understand why they progressed it like that. If you are also a person who likes to think about how things could have been better, I would encourage you to hold off on the hate comments and the venting and just go make something that is good. I'm not going to say which ones, but quite a lot of my videos are made in response to something I found quite distasteful. But instead of like expressing my distaste to the creator, I just made something that I thought was good. This video is not one of them, but quite often I do find myself being like, oh, I wish they made it like this. I wish they drew it like that. That is another way that I can feel motivated by other artists. Last and certainly not least is momentum. This is the word that I like to use instead of consistency or habit. Because to me, consistency and habit imply a certain type of stasis where it's like you're just trying to maintain a status quo, whereas momentum indicates that you're actually going somewhere and building something. Momentum is very motivating to me. This happens when I just realized I can't talk about this without using the word habit or consistency. But when I've built a habit of drawing every day, then I feel like I have momentum to keep on going. Momentum is never static. No matter what you're doing, you're creating momentum. So, for example, there are lots of times where I haven't drawn for a very long time. And that likely started because I picked up my phone to play a game and sit on the couch instead of drawing. And because I kickstarted that motion, the next day, the same situation comes around, I am more likely to do the thing I did yesterday than the thing that I need to be doing or that I want to be doing. Because it's harder to introduce a new action into your day than to just follow what you did yesterday. So make it easy on yourself and just like start one day. People always say that, just start. But they say that because once you start, it'll be easier the next day, and then the next, and then the next, because you have momentum. And I see this happening in every aspect of my life. For example, eating healthy. If I choose to eat healthy today, then I'll probably choose to eat healthy tomorrow. But if I snack once, I'll probably start snacking again and again and again. So just noticing these habits will allow me to make better choices. so that I can start a more positive momentum instead of a more negative momentum in my life. On that topic, to wrap up this video, I asked all of you guys on my Instagram what motivates you, and I said it can be weird, and these are the responses I got. I hope you don't mind that I did not blur out anyone's username, but it's so interesting seeing the huge variety of motivations that people have. It is especially interesting seeing lots of successful and bigger artists saying that it's for money, or it's like a habit like going to the gym, it's a routine. I see some of you really relate to what I said about spite or numbers. Actually, a lot of you said music, which is very interesting because I don't think I've ever drawn something inspired by music, but I do love music and I listen to it all the time when I draw. Oh my gosh, someone said desire for glory. That's so funny. Being jealous, pure spite. These are really real. Seeing a mid-series and thinking I could do better. See, that last part was for you. A lot of you are saying that nobody's making the stuff you want to see, so you had to make it yourself. That is really awesome. Realize I'm in too deep to quit now. Art is how I see the world now. I can't not make art. That's momentum at work. Going to be homeless if I don't log in. Good luck. Those 12-year-old art accounts. Good luck, bro. They're only gonna get more powerful. A lot of you are talking about like simping after men, and I originally had a section in this video about like freaking out over characters and how getting your freak on can be very motivating. But yeah, I hope this was an enjoyable video for you. Hope you got something done, or not. That's okay too. Regardless, thank you to my patrons and thank you again to Skillshare, and I will see you in the next video.